Hi, Debbie. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Me too. I'm loving all your pink for those people that are watching uh, the YouTube video and loving on Barbie recently. You're fitting right in with the theme here today. So pink might be your signature color, I'm thinking.
You got that right. It's my
Yes.
signature color. I want to say before Barbie, but I think she was born before me. I don't know. Was she
I
from
don't
the
know.
50s? I think, was she from the
Yeah.
50s
I
maybe?
think so. She's been
Yeah.
around a while. My signature color is turquoise. And if, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, like a signature color is a color that kind of makes you happy and you gravitate toward. I think it can change over time. It doesn't necessarily mean you love to wear that color, but it's something about that color. So anyway, I love that your signature color is pink. Well, we kick off the show with some thoughts from the Happy Healthy Caregiver jar, and would love to get your thoughts on this today, Debbie. Today's inspiration says, you can't stay in your corner of the forest waiting for others to come to you. You have to go to them sometimes. And I'll give you a guess. Who do you think said that? You can't stay in your corner of the
Who?
forest. Yeah, it's Winnie the Pooh. What was the clue? Was it the corner, the forest? Yeah.
Both. Both.
Yes, I love that. Well, what does that make you think of and related to kind of caregiving and self-care and all of that?
I don't know. To me, it makes me think about you feel like you're alone in your corner and you're kind of waiting for somebody to find you and reach out to you, but you've got to come out of it yourself and find everybody else. Ask for
Mm-hmm.
help, ask for support.
Yeah, I mean, a corner might feel like a safe place to be, like you're backed in the corner, you kind of see all the sides, but you are kind of backed into a corner, right? And you have less options around you. Uh, and it was a kind of a aha moment for me during caregiving where I felt that people couldn't read my mind, that I had to vocalize what it is that I was looking for and needing because they were going to constantly disappoint my expectations if I didn't.
So true. I didn't realize that for so many years, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I feel like we all have to kind of get there. So maybe by hearing this, we can help somebody get there a little faster. Well,
Hope so.
share a bit about your caregiving story with us, Debbie.
Sure. Well, I have been a caregiver for over 40 years. Started when I was 17, and my dad had a massive stroke the day after I graduated from high school. He was only 46. He survived. He lived
Mm.
another 30 years, and my parents were divorced, and he was my responsibility. And he and I didn't live together, luckily, because that would have been really tough. But from an early age, I mean, 46, he was living in assisted living and independent living facilities with 80 something year olds in his mid 40s.
Mm.
And he went through so many different things, challenges, everything over the years. And in my 20s, I was learning the difference between Medicaid and Medicare and all those kind of things when, not many 20-year-olds need to know that kind of stuff. And so I was his caregiver for 30 years. And then when I had my oldest son, he was diagnosed on the autistic spectrum when he was 2. And later on in his teen years, developed mental illness. And then my husband always had a lot of physical challenges, but was functioning until maybe about 5 years ago. And his physical, and also he also began to really suffer from mental illness, and both those challenges left him debilitated. And he then wound up being diagnosed with terminal blood cancer, and 6 months from the diagnosis passed away. And that was only almost 8 months ago now.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah,
I'm so sorry, Debbie.
thank you.
That is a lot. And you are somebody coined this phrase, a former podcast guest, Michelle Hawk, that she was a serial caregiver. and better than being a serial killer, but you
Yes,
definitely have been and still are a serial family caregiver.
I
Yeah.
am. I am. Not something we choose, right? But I'm not complaining because I'm sure as all of us feel, we have no choice. We want to be there for our loved ones. It's just a tough situation that we're thrust into.
And you are still grieving. How are you doing with your grieving?
I think it comes and goes in waves. There are days or moments that you expect to be upset, right? Those days, a birthday, an anniversary, a holiday, that kind of stuff. It's really the little times that it kind of hits you. I mean, this is so silly, but just today, for like the third time in 8 months, I have a plumbing issue. I don't think in 5 years we had three plumbing issues, and
Mm-hmm.
yet in 8 months, and I'm thinking to myself, I just can't take that. That it might not be the best example, but it's what's on my mind for today. It's that reminder of after being in a partnership for me for 30 years, there's no more partnership.
Yeah.
It
That was his
feels.
responsibility to kind of own that.
Yes. And
Yes.
so it was also his responsibility. He loved to cook and food shop. It was like a thing for him. And I can't stand it. I don't know how to cook.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to food shop. And that has been really, really difficult for me to try and take on that role along with everything else that's going on
Yeah.
in my life. So those are more practical examples, but I just actually recorded a video on this past Friday because I sat down Friday night, nobody else is in the house, and I look up at this picture that's hanging over my fireplace. And it's a family picture of us on the beach. My boys were 5 and 3. They're now 22 and 20. And we look so happy. My husband looks so great and so young and healthy and tan and all of that. And I thought to myself, remember how I felt before we took that picture? It was so stressful getting everybody in their outfits. The kids were running around. Like, I can't even believe that this photographer got this amazing picture. And I remember being in this moment thinking, oh my gosh, this is so difficult, right? I just want a minute to myself. And there I sat on Friday night thinking, well, you sure did finally get a minute to yourself. And now you wish you were right back there in that picture.
Yes.
And
Have you ever heard the song, and I'll link to it in the show notes, by Trace Adkins, You're Gonna Miss This? It's a
no,
country song,
yeah,
and it will tug at your heartstrings. Any mom, my kids are about the same age as yours, Debbie, and um my husband is still here, but he's a partner of mine. Like you're saying, we've been married 27 years. So I'm imagining what that could potentially feel like. Are you finding that one of the things that happens with grief is like there's a lot of onslaught of people in the beginning that help out, but now you're 8 months, into your grief journey. And I don't believe grieving ever really ends. I just feel like it becomes like almost like arthritis or something. It just is a part of your body, a part of your, but how are people showing up for you, 8 months into your grief?
oh, I'd say early on, once people go back to their regular lives, not that I'm faulting anyone, right? It's human nature. Why would they be thinking about it all the time? Because they're not living what I'm living and having to figure out what my new normal is and have all these routines and things that you miss that person every minute because they're a part of your daily life. I mean, I hate to say it, but and not to compare, and not one is worse or whatever, but it's different. With my father, he didn't live with me. Yes, I was talking to him all the time. Especially the last 6 months of his life, I saw him every day, but I went somewhere and I saw him, right? And then I came home. This is a void that is constantly there. It's constantly there where you live, little things, sleeping, and when you're watching TV, just whatever little habits that you have. And I wouldn't expect anybody to be thinking about that all the time. Why would they? Of course, everyone goes back to their normal life. I In the beginning, it was very, very difficult. You know, you feel like screaming and telling every single person that you come in contact with, I just lost my husband. I remember I went to play pickleball. I hadn't played in years, and I started playing again because now I could. And I met a woman I hadn't seen, and I I barely know her. And I just had to tell her, you know, when she's asking, "Oh, how are you?" Like, I just needed to wear a t-shirt that says, "I just lost my husband," or "I'm grieving." I felt like I needed a sign to let everyone know what I was going through, because it was hard to talk about every day, "How's your kids?" and, you know, the regular small talk kind of thing.
Yes.
You just want to scream, "I don't care about any of that stuff right now. I'm going through something so monumental."
It's so true. I think there was something to the, olden days where they used to wear a physical color black of, or, a certain veil or whatever their tradition was in that culture to kind of show that this was a time that you kind of needed to respect this person. And I went to a caregiving conference one time, and they had ribbons for, like, a ribbon if you're actively caring, a ribbon if you've recently lost somebody, and so that allowed you to kind of enter a situation and have that kind of visual cue about that situation. um well, how you put it, the constant void, I think that a lot of people will resonate with that who have lost a partner, and you are grieving the life that you thought that you were going to have together, and you're young.
Exactly.
We're young
Yep.
people.
That's
So
right. That's right.
and that's, getting into the the crux of our conversation here, Debbie, is uh you had already started on this journey. What was your husband's name, by the way?
Gary.
Gary. Prior to losing Gary, you had already started this journey of, and it led to writing your book and putting out the content that you do out there. Talk about the moment that, like, something happened, something switched for you.
So it actually happened right around my 50th birthday. You know, it had been years and 30 years at that point since I'd been caring about somebody else and caring for other people and never having a moment to myself or about myself. Hadn't discovered that self-care was important. I know we'll talk about that. And my friends insisted that we go away to celebrate my 50th birthday. And it was four of us. And from the moment that we met at the airport, the laughter just started. The camaraderie, that feeling of safety, of being with women who love and support you. And I really thought that, how am I going to go away? I'm going to be worried about my family. I wasn't worried at all. I forgot. I really did. I didn't think it was going to be possible, but I instantly forgot. And it felt like I just was able to shed all those burdens that felt like they had been sitting on my shoulders for so many years. And we laughed, and we just had the best time. And one night we're sitting there, we're having this conversation, and we're talking about our hopes, and well, they were talking about their hopes and dreams. And I thought to myself, well, I don't know what my hopes and dreams are. I know what they are for my kids, right? As moms, we all, that's what we tend to focus on. But me as a person, I have no idea. And in the conversation, something came across my mind, and I said to them, did I used to be known for my laugh? Because I have this kind of loud, distinctive cackle that's
Oh,
kind of
good.
good.
I hope we get to that.
I, I, I don't know. I think I try to suppress it, but I'll try and let it come out. And I said to them, was I known for my laugh? And they all looked at me like I was crazy. And they said, of course you were. Like, that's what everyone knew you for, your laugh. And I thought to myself, isn't that sad? I had truly forgotten that. I didn't know if I made that up or not. Something hit me. I lost my laugh. I lost who I was as a person through my caregiving, through just, yeah, through my caregiving and through feeling put upon, which was the way that I had viewed my life and my situation up to that point. Why me? Why did I have this happen to me? Why is this my responsibility? When I would look at my friends, and of course, everybody's life seemed better than mine. And it was difficult, but I realized I lost it and I need to find it again, because when I turned 50, there was something also about that mortality motivation piece that came into my head, where maybe I was introduced to the concept and thought to myself, we never know how many years we have left to live, right? But there's something for me that hit at 50 of, wow, if you don't do something about this now, you might not have the chance. And I knew that I did not want to get to the end of my life and look back and regret that I didn't do certain things. And I didn't even know what those certain things were. But I just felt that if something were to happen to me at that moment, I would have had a lot of regrets and felt like I don't want to say wasted my life, because not wasted is not the right word, but didn't fulfill what else I was here to do in this lifetime. And so
Mm.
that was the time that I started to have a revelation.
Do you have like a name for what this mindset was before this moment and the mindset that you have now?
Well, I certainly did have a victim mentality mindset, absolutely, for sure. It still took me some years to really work through and realize that it was me. I didn't realize the problem was with me. I thought the problem was with everything else and everyone else. So it still took me a few more years and a few other journeys that made me realize, wrong. It's me. These are the circumstances. Everybody has challenges. They're different. They come at different times and different levels and all of that. And as we say, if we put your problems in a pile, right, you'd still want to take yours back. It, so it's how we respond to them. And when I realized it was all up to me, not, I had to stop blaming everything and everyone else. And if I wanted a different outcome, then I had to change my response.
When you were talking, are you a Taylor Swift fan? When you said
No,
I was
no.
like, the problem is me. My daughter and I went to the Taylor Swift concert
Oh,
this
you
year. So
did?
you're like, there's the popular song. She's like, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. It's like, but
There you go.
yeah, I do think sometimes we can get in our own way, right? And
Definitely.
um, I'm glad that you had this kind of reframing and this revolution, really almost like an excavation, really. Like you're in there somewhere, like Debbie, cackling Debbie is in there. And you
There you go. There's a little bit.
yeah, and you forgot, she's muted. And that's part of the reason why, I teach people how to prioritize their self-care and what that looks like, because we've lost that. We've lost what makes us ourselves, and we deserve to live our life as well. So what was next step then? Was it like, did you put together a bucket list? Did you have an action plan where you're just like new leaf, and what did it look like?
No, I think like I said, it was one thing after another. The first revelation had to do with losing weight. I've always had a weight issue for the minute I was born. And I went to Weight Watchers for the umpteenth time, after gaining 1,000 pounds and plus. And that time I said, you know what? It's never worked in the past. what is it? The definition of insanity is doing the
Insanity. Yeah.
same thing and thinking you're going to get different outcome. So I went with a different mindset, and I didn't even know really the word for it at the time. And I said, this time, instead of being perfect, not perfect, on, off, bad, good, that kind of thing, I'm just going to go, and I'm going to commit to going to a Weight Watchers meeting every week. It doesn't matter if I lose weight. It doesn't matter what I'm eating. This is all I'm going to do. And I did that for however long, a couple of months, didn't lose any weight, but consistently went. And then I added on another little piece, another little attainable goal. And oh, I would say it took me like 3 or 4 years, and I still have not hit my goal, but I haven't gone back up more than about 10 pounds, at least I play with. And nothing changed other than the way I approached it. So once I had success and realized, okay, now let me try something else. And from there, I don't think I really knew what I was going to do. I wound up going to, I don't know if you remember, but right before COVID, Oprah did this like 10 or 12 city tour. It was kind of associated with Weight Watchers, but she went to big arenas. And at each location, she had a different celebrity that she interviewed. And so my cousin and I went to that tour in Brooklyn where Michelle Obama was the guest. And it was an amazing day. And at the end of the day, big arena, I don't know, 18 or 20,000 people. And at the end of the day, Oprah comes out, just her by herself with a microphone. You felt like it was just the two of you sitting there chatting, but even with all those people. And she said, you know, we all have a secret. You have a secret. And you've been lying to yourself, and you just push that secret down. If you don't pay attention to that secret, it's going to erupt like a volcano, and it is not going to be good. You need to own that secret. Do whatever you need to do now, even if it's not easy, because in the end, you will at least be in charge versus if it erupts. And for me, that secret was money, a money issue that I had been pushing down for a lot of reasons. And a lot of it had to do with my husband's mental illness. And I knew she was talking to me. And I left there and I said, that's it. I am going to own this. And that kind of led me on this journey of, okay, really what I needed to do was sell my house. But because of both my son and my husband, that I
And this
couldn't.
pandemic and a
Yeah,
pandemic.
well, and the
Yeah. Yeah.
pandemic, yeah. But
Yeah.
I probably could have done okay with that. But I couldn't bear what that would have done to them. So I said, all right, my only other choice is to try and make more money. And I had just started to try a supplement, and I really loved it, and it really did great things for me. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try and sell this supplement as a side hustle. And I had been listening to a podcast for a while, and the woman, she was a motivational podcaster, and she had kept talking about this mastermind that she attended. I had no idea what a mastermind was. I knew none of this. And I thought, all right, I'll join this mastermind that she joined, and they're going to teach me how to sell this product. And I joined the mastermind, and it's 150 people on Zoom because it was during the pandemic. And as I listened to these people and I heard what they were doing and how they took their own struggles, right? Just like you're doing, and now just like I'm doing, and using that to help other people, I thought, oh my goodness, that's why I've had this journey.
Yeah. You've got an abundance of content.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do. But that's why I didn't even know that was a possibility. I felt like when I stepped into that mastermind room that I did step into Oz. Like I just landed and fell like Dorothy into this strange world I didn't even know was out there. And so that was September or October of 21. And so since then, I've been on a journey that has evolved and forever changing. And it honestly has been fantastic. The people that I've met, how my life has expanded in so many ways, things that I never could imagine because I didn't even know they existed.
Mm, yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You've done a lot of things that you didn't know you could do. And one of those things was writing your memoir. Maybe on second thought, maybe I can. Tell us about your book. Like who would be a great person to pick up and resonate with your book?
I'd say a great person is anybody who needs inspiration or hope, who feels like this is it, that they're sleepwalking through their life, that maybe they feel like they're a victim of their circumstances, or maybe they feel like it's too late, or they don't see a way out, and anything like that. And even not, I think anybody who just wants to maybe hear an inspirational story. I think it's about 30 different individual stories of my life that just really track who I was as a little girl with a lot of limiting beliefs, very low self-esteem, no self-confidence, didn't want to be seen, to, now here I am talking on this to you and standing on stages and talking to people and loving it and feeling comfortable. It's quite an evolution and a journey. But let me just say, I never wanted to be an author. Everybody I talk to who writes a book seems to say, "Oh, I always had a book in me, right? I always loved to write. Not me. Mm-mm. I'm a CPA. That's my first profession. I am a numbers girl,
Numbers. Yeah.
numbers. And again, through this kind of these steps that I took from that Oprah date, and I just said, you know what? Why not? Because in the past, I would have said, I don't do that. I don't do that. Right. And then I said, on second thought, why can't I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing led to another, listening to my gut. And the next thing you know, oh my goodness, I'm an author.
Well, you're an author, you're a podcaster, right?
Yes, that's new.
Yes.
Yes.
And you're living your life without regrets. Your book is endorsed by Jack Canfield, who is somebody I greatly respect. So we'll link to all of that in the show notes. And you're offering a free chapter, I think, on your website, so people can
Yeah,
kind of get a taste of what that's like and see if they before they make a purchase,
absolutely.
which is great. And then you collaborated on another book called Heart Whispers,
Hmm.
and which I thought, when I looked at it, I noticed that a former podcast guest of Happy Healthy Caregiver was also a contributor,
Oh, really?
Virginia Sampson. So I'll link to her episode on the show notes. So such a cool thing there. Um, I know we talked about how you have a passion for pink, but you have another passion. What's your other passion?
I do. Hearts. My other passion is hearts. And this is, I kind of actually love this story because it's so crazy, the more I think about it. So I went to college in Washington, D.C. And back then, there was a store in the old post office pavilion, which doesn't exist anymore. It was a store that only sold things with hearts. Since I was a little girl, I have always loved hearts. I don't know why, I just did. And when I found this store, well, I wanted to sleep in it. I wanted to move into the store, and I would always try and convince my friends, "Oh, I think we need to go over to the post office pavilion, to do something." And they were like, "Oh, how many times are you going to go to that store?" It just made me happy. And I said to my one particular friend, someday I'm going to own a heart store. I don't know if it'll be this heart store, but I am going to open a heart store. And then what happened, right? Life. And I got to get a real job and, forget about the heart store. Back in November, this past November, when my husband passed away the next month, but I obviously didn't know that then. Scrolling through my phone, shopping for something, I don't remember what, and I put hearts in the search, something I do all the time, and it popped into my head. The store popped into my head. And then I realized, hey, it's 2022. I don't need a brick and mortar store. And the next morning, I called a woman who I met in the mastermind, who's amazing, who I knew set up stores through Shopify. And I said, okay, I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of money. I can't ship anything. You know, I gave her all the things. And I said, so be honest with me and tell me, is this something that I can make happen? And she said yes. And I have an online store called A Sprinkle of Hearts.
Love
And
that.
it makes me happy. And actually, the other thing that's in there is the sprinkle, because originally I was going to name the store something different. I was searching for names of people who, you know, I had to make sure the website was available. And I had picked a name, same kind of thing. All of a sudden, I'm doing something, and I said, oh my goodness, I can't believe I overlooked this. My other favorite thing in the world is ice cream, and I like to eat it with rainbow sprinkles. So,
Perfect. And it was
perfect.
available.
It was
Sprinkle of hearts.
available. A Sprinkle
I
of
mean,
Hearts. Makes me
yeah.
so happy just to say it.
Instead of the stars aligning, the hearts aligned.
That's right. Ooh, I love that.
So sweet. I love how all of these things are just kind of being put into action, and you're taking action. You're being intentional about it. You're looking at your life and you're deciding it's time to make some changes. Was it, we were talking about your earlier, the grief around Gary, like, have you been tested to like fall back into the old victim mentality? I mean, that's probably not something, like you said, that you expected to lose your husband. Could be very easy to kind of go back and fall into that woe is me victim mentality.
I think for short periods of time, but I have been able to catch myself and not stay there, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And it's funny because when you write a book that says, on second thought, maybe you can, everybody you know, when you say I can't or this, they throw it back in your face. So be careful what you put out there.
Yes, yes. Instead of, it's like the teachers that are what they used to say in school. It's like, can I? And they're like, or may I? What was it like? I don't know. Can you? Like, I don't know.
Yes,
It makes
yes,
me think of too.
yes,
So let's talk about your self-care. Although we've been talking about self-care, obviously, like this is huge,
yes.
this huge excavation that you've been doing. And you mentioned some things already. And you said we're pickleballers. My husband and I
Oh,
are.
nice.
We started playing pickleball with our kids during COVID, and we were kind of fumbling our way through it because we didn't have any training, just some videos we were watching. I had to unlearn some things, but we've picked it up again and have learned correctly. So tell it for people who haven't been, I don't know, had their eyes open recently, because I think it's the fastest growing sport in America
Yes,
right now is
yes.
pickleball. But what is pickleball, Debbie?
Well, it's so hard to say. So I was a former tennis player. So to me, it's like mini tennis.
Okay.
But I know it's a combination of, like, ping pong and tennis. And I don't know. I think it is. To me, it is mini tennis. It's on a,
Minutes today.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I never really played tennis, but I describe it as ping pong meets tennis meets like the beach
yeah,
paddle game
yeah,
meets like
yeah,
with a wiffle ball. So
yeah,
when you played wiffle ball, but I love it because it's easier on my body and it's not as much running. It's something my husband and I can do together. There you can do with your friends and other people. We usually play doubles. And there's even like, Ulta leagues and stuff like that. Lots of YouTube videos. They've converted a couple of our courts in my neighborhood. They've drawn the pickleball court is much smaller than the tennis court. The
yeah.
net's a little lower. You're using different paddles, you're using different balls. So anyway, I encourage people to try it because particularly for older adults, it's something that is doable.
Absolutely. You got to just make sure you stretch because people don't realize. I think it's also like orthopedists say this is, it's up their business a lot because they see a lot of injury
Mm.
coming from it. So I think it's
Yeah, a lot
easy
of
to
stop
think
and
it's
start.
not that big a deal. And
Yeah.
so, you don't do a lot to just stretch and warm up a little bit before you start playing.
Yeah. And the other night, one of my husband's friends was watching his Apple Watch to make sure his heart rate, it
Yeah.
didn't, he would, if it got to a certain point, he would sit down for a little bit because you don't push yourself um, beyond where your max heart rate needs to be. But
Yeah.
definitely fun. Well, one of your caregiving self-care tips was to always have something of your own that brings you joy. Tell us what do you mean by that?
Well, I'll give you an example. So when my husband was diagnosed, right around that time, I was given this opportunity to join this course for first time authors who wanted to get their stories out there. And I thought, well, if I really am going to write a book, I need guidance. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, how does it even work? I had no idea. And I had met with this woman. I loved this woman. I felt very comfortable with her. And and then my husband was diagnosed. And I said to my therapist, well, this is ridiculous that I'm even going to say this out loud, that I'm considering taking this course now that, we've learned about Gary and who knows what the future holds. And what if I won't be able to show up to the course? And what if here you go, I can't, right? What happens if there's homework and I don't do it? And what happens if we have to go read something of our, that we wrote and people judge me? Like, I had every excuse in the book. And she said, no, as a matter of fact, I think it's an excellent idea. I said, really? She said, yes, because you are going to need something of your own outside of Gary, outside of the situation at home with my boys, with Gary, the whole thing. You're going to need something of your own. And who cares if you can't show up? And who cares if you don't do the homework and if you don't write a book? None of that matters. And she was right. And the only way it happened is by me making sure it happened. Because if you just say, yeah, I really need to take care of myself, or I really need to, I'm not saying everyone needs to write a book. Let's say it's play pickleball once a week
Mm-hmm.
or read every night or whatever it is that you enjoy. If you just leave it to, happen, so, it's not going to happen. You have to schedule it in. You have to be accountable to yourself to make it happen. So I'm going to read at, 10 pages before bedtime or whatever that thing is, and make sure it happens, because then at least one, you get, I think, a mental break, right? For me, it really is. I like dancing. So Zumba or jazzercise or like some kind of dance aerobics does that for me. And besides the physical benefit, it is so great mentally. I get into the music, I'm singing, I'm dancing, I forget about all my problems, and I can walk in there tight as, so stressed, like a big ball of stress, and I leave and it's gone. And then what happens? Then you come home to your loved one, to your caree, and you're a different person than you were when you left. So I
Yeah, you
think
never usually regret those times, right? It's not like
never.
you're looking back and like, oh, shouldn't have done that. That was a waste. And you aren't going to find the time. You have to create the time, and it does take intention. And it's, you tired of like, yes, hold yourself accountable. You're worth it. And I think there's a
Exactly.
lot of women and caregivers out there who feel like they're not worth investing in. And that is, you need to talk to Debbie or I, because that we're gonna help you change that. So I think sometimes we do have to uncover what our joys are. And so one of the activities that I teach in some of the workshops and things that I have are to create your joy list. So the little things in your life that bring you joy, because you forget. hearts is one of yours, the color pink. You mentioned writing, you mentioned pickleball, like starting to think about, like write them down and put them on paper and figure out how you can infuse more of those. And if you're caring for somebody, figuring out what their joys are and maybe where you can intersect and find this commonality so that you can still have this joyful relationship other than just caregiver and care recipient, because that gets old fast. So I'll link to the joy list stuff. And I appreciate that you're talking about how you're putting it into practice, and making it a reality and an intentional. It's doable. It's doable. Two things can be true at the same time. You can still be an amazing caregiver and live a happy and healthy life.
Exactly. And it's so hard to, I don't know, I found it very hard when you're in the thick of it. I thought for so long I didn't have time, right? There weren't enough hours in the day. It wasn't that I didn't think I was worth it. I never even thought of it like that. I just thought, well, someday I'll be able to have enough time to do what I want to do. But right now I have to take care of this one and this one and this one and this one and, all the things.
Did you
So
drop any balls? I'm just curious, like when you decided to lean in more to some of your joy, uh, what did you drop anything? Did anybody get neglected? Did anything bad happen?
no, I think that all of us had to learn, and they had to learn that now there were boundaries that I never put up before. And it was hard because when you're always available 24/7 for everyone else, and then all of a sudden you are not, and I'm not even talking about a long period of time, an hour a day, where I would, when I was writing, I would tell Gary, either I would get up before he got up and write for an hour at 6 in the morning. And if that didn't work for some reason, then I would tell him, when I knew he was safe and calm, whatever, I'm going upstairs, in a meeting, or I'm writing for an hour unless there's real trouble. Don't call me till 2 o'clock, and I'll be down at 2 o'clock. And, once they realized that I really meant it, then it started working. It was just a little bit of a transition period for everyone to get used to.
Yeah, you got to retrain these folks, of what you do there. You mentioned therapy, I love the jazzercise and the Zumba. That's also giving you some social self-care, which is very important. You're getting physical, you're getting emotional, so many different things where I think we can combine some things together and really like maximize that, that time that you have. And I've been enjoying your video series that you have right now. You're counting down the days to your 60th birthday
Yes.
and sharing a tip or words of wisdom. I think October 9th is your 60th birthday.
Yes.
And one of the videos I caught was called Listen to the Whispers,
Mm.
which was very cool. What does that mean to you? Listen to the whispers.
That's how I got here. I got here by listening to the whispers. I feel like it started with Oprah. She wasn't whispering, she was screaming at me. And it was really time for me to start listening. I listened to the whispers when I felt like, I had that little inkling when I heard the woman talk about a mastermind. And I thought, maybe, and I looked at the price of the mastermind and I thought, I'm supposed to be trying to make money, not spend money. But something in my gut told me, try it. You gotta step out of your comfort zone. You gotta try something new. And when you hear those little messages, pay attention to them instead of ignoring them. And sometimes it happens so quickly that you don't even realize that it was a message, you know? I just had one very strange that I'm trying to figure out. But you know what? Sometimes what I've realized is it might not be so obvious. And someone told me, have a little notebook or in your phone, whenever something pops up and you're like, what the heck? Why do I keep seeing this number? Why do I keep hearing about this? Write it down, even if it doesn't make sense to you right now. Maybe down the road it will. And I had something where I was kind of like half sleeping a couple nights ago, and as I was waking up, I saw, and this is very strange, red and green, almost like Christmas lights, and the year 1976 flashing. And I'm like, what is it about 1976? And I start thinking 1976 wasn't a good year for me, blah, blah, blah. Like, maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's something that I should be talking about that happened to me in 1976 that I'm not. I don't know what it is,
Yeah,
but
but
it's going to
it's a
stay in the back of
discovery.
my in my mind now. You know what I'm saying? So maybe it's a whisper. Maybe it's not, but
Maybe it's a
I'm going to.
restaurant. Maybe it's a like a
Yeah.
cool bar or
Yeah, you're
something.
right. You're
I
right.
know, like who knows?
Yeah,
Well, it sounds like a treasure hunt to me.
it's fun.
It sounds fun. Well, speaking of fun, we're gonna hit some of the questions from the Just for You daily self-care journal that I picked out for you, Debbie. So let's see what we got here. It
Okay.
says, um, what movie or TV show could you turn to for a guaranteed laugh?
Well, my favorite movie is When Harry Met Sally. And just last week, actually, my 20-year-old and his girlfriend, they wanted me to watch some movie, and I don't know, we didn't have it. We didn't have whatever it was streaming, we didn't have it. And I said, "Hey, did you ever watch?" And of course, they had never watched it. And my son's rolling his eyes, but the girlfriend's there. She's sweet. She's going to do whatever I want. So we sat down and we watched it. And I could watch that movie a million times. And I'm not usually the kind of person who likes to watch over and
Yeah,
over again, but
it's a
that's one of
class,
them.
a new classic for sure. Did they like it?
They did, except my son was super uncomfortable with me in the Meg Ryan scene where
The
she's,
diner,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, the
the
deli, yeah.
diner scene. Well, and we recently watched Ted Lasso, the Apple TV series. In fact, I wrote a post about some caregiving nuggets I got from him.
I saw that, and I don't have Apple TV, and I know that everybody is, that is just the show to watch, and I know it's supposed to be uplifting, right, and inspiring,
Yeah, I
and
was late to the party for sure, but I got 3 months free through the Target app. I don't know if that's an offer
ah,
that you have
interesting.
available, but
Okay, I'll check that out.
might be available. Okay. What would you do if the internet was broken for 3 days?
Oh my goodness. Read.
Yeah. Have you read anything good lately?
Now, I mostly read when I'm reading for fun, which I haven't been lately. I've been reading a lot of personal development books,
Hmm.
but I did on vacation got a beach read or something that I
Yeah.
enjoy. But it's very strange because it seems like anything I pick up that seems to have a story about a widow. And this was like it didn't say it in the description. And I've read this author many times, and that's not what she writes about. And it's like, oh my goodness, it seems to just keep
Yeah.
resonating. My friends took me to see that movie with Tom Hanks, A Man Named Otto, which was a
Yep.
great movie, but it was literally 3 weeks after Gary died, and none of us knew that he had just lost his wife. And
Yes.
I'm crying in the movie, and my one friend's yelling at the other, "Didn't you see the description? What did we take her to this for?" So it just, it's funny how I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a
It's maybe it's on purpose for some healing. They could
maybe.
some different healing. I do feel like once you're in this space and you're in this widow space, a caregiving space, like they're everywhere. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And it's like everything I'm watching, everything I'm seeing, I'm like, there's a caregiver. He's a caregiver. She's a caregiver. And my husband just like, I mean, it
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
it's like every show, every whatever, but you do kind of see things through different glasses, I think, through
Yeah,
it.
now it's on your radar, so you're looking for it.
Exactly. Whereabouts do you live, Debbie? What area?
I live in New Jersey.
New Jersey. Well, is there a local attraction that you've never visited but wanted to in your area in New Jersey?
Well, you know what? It's insane that I'm originally from Long Island, so always in the metropolitan New York area, and I have not been to Ellis Island since they reopened it. Yeah.
Oh, well, that would be a cool
Yes,
adventure.
you're absolutely right. It would be. I'm going to put
And
that on my joy list.
yeah, good. It for some good stuff there. What last question is Actually, what was your birthday again? I'm going to do your
October
birthday.
9th. October 9th.
October 9th. What's currently keeping you awake at night?
My son, my oldest son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one he deals with some mental health
Yeah.
issues
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah. He's not in a good place. I don't know how to, it's a big challenge. It's a very big challenge. I could write a book just on that. And my book doesn't include really anything about him because it's his own journey that he's not comfortable sharing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I can just say it's probably the biggest challenge of my life. And, you know, we all know how hard it is to see your child struggle and suffer, but he's had 22 years of it and no end in sight. So that's definitely what keeps me up at night. Sometimes he comes up and wakes me at 2 o'clock in the morning because he's upset. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's what it is.
It literally is keeping you up. Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that. And I realize that sometimes we do have stories that intersect with ours that aren't us to tell. And I can say, Debbie, with confidence that I believe you're setting a great example for him of what living a healthy and working on your mental health really looks like. And
Well,
so
thank you.
he sees this, and it certainly is probably having more of an impact on him than maybe you know.
Thank you for
So
that. I hope so.
yeah, yes. Any parting words of wisdoms that you want to share for the family caregivers? And then also, I'm going to list all your social medias, but is there a really good place where you could send people to reach out and keep in touch with you?
Sure. My website is the best place, you know, and then it has all the links to everywhere. And it's DebbieRWeiss.com. You got to get the R in there, otherwise you'll wind up
And
on
they
different Debbie
it's
Weisses.
a
Two S's.
DEBBIER R as in what? I always feel like I need to know that convoy.
Robin. My middle
Robin.
name is Robin. Yes.
Okay. R as
Deborah
in
Robin.
Robin.
R as in Robin. Yeah. WEISS.
So we'll link to all of that in the show notes. And then
Thank you.
anything else that you want to close us out with that you feel like we really didn't touch on this, or something that you just want to speak to caregivers?
So I will. It is in my book, a whole story about how I discovered this, and I was never a woman with a quote. And now I am. So I want to share the quote that's speaking to me. It is from The Wizard of Oz, and Glenda the Good Witch said, "You've always had the power, my dear. You just had to learn it for yourself." And I'd heard it a million times, and all I thought it meant was, Dorothy, you just had to click your heels and you could have gone home. And now I realize it's so much more than that. And honestly, that's my entire message, is that regardless of what your circumstances, regardless of your caregiving situation, and I'm sure it's hard because both of us know how difficult it can be, you still have the power within you. You just have to know it and use it.
I love that. Well, that's one way to drive us home for sure, is to drive that home, and that we have that power within us. Thank you so much, Debbie, for your vulnerability, for your thirst for adventure, and for really kind of empowering family caregivers who need this message.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you.